We're the voices of experiencers, and we are the experiencers of extraterrestrials. Just what's out there in the abyss, in the darkness of the unknown. It's time for disclosure and it's time for truth, because what lies in the darkness brings powerful transformation. We're the bridge between two different worlds, with one foot in this reality and one in the next. The shift is here, along with profound integration. Just who are extraterrestrials and what are their plans?
Hi, everyone. How are you guys tonight?
Good.
It's good to see all your faces.
You too.
We got a lot of faces tonight.
Yeah, excited.
We're
Full
so
house.
blessed.
Yeah.
So, Dana, welcome back.
Thank
It's
you.
always perfect in seeing your beautiful face.
Thank-
And I want to welcome our special guest, Peter Robbins. How are you?
Good. I'm delighted to be here.
Now,
Sure.
Dem, he's your connection. You want to tell us a little bit about Peter? What's your favorite things about him?
Oh, he's brilliant, and I met him when I met Bud. Basically, Peter was at the time. Were you Bud's assistant at the time when I met you?
Yeah,
And-
for about at least half of our 35-year friendship.
And he and his sister. I met his sister and him at one of Bud's experiencer group meeting. He had support group meetings.
Yep.
And I came from Indiana to go to one of the meetings, and Peter was there, and we all the three of us clicked. Peter and his sister Helen became like my big brother, big sister, guardian angels or whatever. And I've just loved him ever since. And he's brilliant. He's a fantastic writer and speaker. He's written on the subject for many years, and he has his own podcast also now called Meanwhile Here on Earth on Mondays, and it's a fantastic show. He just had a really, really cool guest, Eric. Well, I can't remember his last name.
Eric Bloom, for the past 50 plus years, lead singer for the Blue Oyster Cult.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Oh, so,
Listen
Love
to
that
us.
band.
Old friend. We go back before there was a Blue Oyster Cult. So we have lots to
That's
talk
very
about.
cool.
City's on flame, man.
so
City's on flame. Just rock
Among
and
other
roll.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, Peter's been my rock, my go-to whenever I have questions about things. When I've written my books, he's helped me tremendously and given me his insight and helped me figure things out. So, I mean, he's a great mind. He'd be a great fit in this program that we do here, because his perspective and his input. How many regressions have you set in on over the years with Bud?
Certainly a few dozen, not
Yeah.
hundreds or anything like that. Either for whatever reason, he would ask me, always with the permission or encouragement of the person to be regressed, or occasionally, because there was a pre-existing relationship or something, a regression subject would ask me to sit in, and that was always okay with Bud.
Mhm.
I've never witnessed anybody else, but it's very obviously over the decades I've met and spent time with other people who do this work, have seen footage of them working. And, Deb knows, you all know if you've been involved in the subject long enough, technique is one thing, but the character, the empathy, the patience, the knowledge of the person doing it is really everything. People say, what do you think about regressive hypnosis and UFO investigations? Well, who's doing the regression?
Yeah.
But a lot. And, sitting 3 feet away from somebody who is going through, occasionally, a wondrous experience. But the people that Bud worked with, more often than not, as most people know, we're in distress, to put it mildly, in cases. And one, it's a, I don't even know if I can call it a myth, but it's grown up around Bud that he was only that there was no interest to him, or it was all about people who were in trauma, not about people who had transcendent experiences. The fact was, he was a humanist who really cared, as Deb knows, phenomenally curious, and a very fine practitioner and self-trained investigative writer, the best I ever met. And his technique was extraordinarily gradual and gentle. And he's like the only one of the whole pack who he studied under a really pioneering psychologist in terms of this technique, Dr. Aphrodite Clamar, who oversaw his work for 7 years at his request.
Right.
Who does that? You know, you get your certificate and get out there and you practice.
Mhm.
Anyway, obviously I could go on about it, but the short answer to your short question was, I'm not sure how many, but enough times have it stay with me that I witnessed such things.
Well, Peter, I know a lot of people in our audience. They know who you are. You've been around a long time. You've been, you've been there. Trust me, doing a lot of stuff. So,
And helping a lot of people.
yeah, I'm sure a
Yeah.
lot of people are going to know who you are. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And Mary's been following in the footsteps of all the great ones like Bud and Yvonne. So, what do you got for us tonight, Mary?
Wow. So this regression was with a woman, and I've regressed her probably about 3 or 4 times now. And in this regression, she wanted to explore a time where she woke up in the middle of the road and she doesn't know how she got there, and she was in her pajamas. So this first clip is her waking up in the road, and she sees a light in the sky that's slowly fading away.
And we're going to go back to the time where you hear a loud clap and you wake up in your pajamas standing in the middle of the road. Take a look around and describe what's happening for me.
I'm wondering why my feet are in dirt and dark and it's quiet. And over the house across the street, I see a light. And
What's the light doing?
it's leaving. And it makes me sad because it's leaving.
Why does it make you sad that it's leaving?
It's like if like a relative is going away.
Does the light seem familiar to you?
No.
Do you know where the light's coming from?
Just a light. I don't see anything but a light. It's a big light.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw that light up close to you. We're going to back up a little bit. And we're drawing that light back towards you. And it's close to you now. And you'll be able to see it. Describe what you're seeing for me.
I see two things. I see a round metal ball with a light on it. And I see a thing on the ground that's kind of like a tall acorn.
It looks like a tall acorn.
Mm-hmm.
What color is it?
Gray or silver.
Does it have anything on it?
I don't think that's really what it is. I think it's something else.
Would you like to walk closer to it to get a better look? Okay, so go ahead and move closer to it. You're there now, and you can see clearly for what it is. Describe what you're seeing for me.
It's a saucer.
What was that first thing she said? A round thing with a light on it? Was that a part of this saucer, or was that something else?
Are you talking about the very beginning?
Yeah, when she first described a round thing with a light on it.
I think that's what she was talking about.
Yeah, it was farther away, so that's
Yeah.
what it looked like to her. Just
Oh.
a round thing with a light on it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I just brought the light closer to her so she'd be able to see it more clearly, get her to
Well,
focus in on just that.
It was more saucer shaped then, right?
She didn't sound like she was afraid.
No.
No, she's a
Often the
lot
case.
experiencer.
What's that, Peter?
That's often the case. An irrational absence of fear or anxiety or concern at a moment where you should be completely freaked out.
Yeah.
That's them, of course, so they can.
Well, she was actually sad, really, in the beginning that it was going
Yeah.
away, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was very poignant. And, with no background, of course, on this woman, no idea of anything about her, except that, in the context you're presenting, I find myself listening very carefully to how she's saying what she's saying as much as what she's saying. And you seem to have her in a very good state of natural recall, talking about that feeling. It's so elemental of your feet feeling the earth. And talk about a moment where you need something to make you feel a little more grounded and you're just observing that thing. Obviously, well, as obvious as it can be, there's no intent to deceive here. For any in your audience who, may be feeling, well, this tiny little moment, they're assuming this person was, interfaced with aliens or was taken away by a UFO. We should stress here that, of course, anything out of context is completely irrelevant, and this would mean nothing if this woman did not have a history, obviously, that you and family members and she is aware of, etc.
Yeah.
And it's as authentic feeling, sounding, and I sometimes the word case, it's totally appropriate, but it's so detached, it's so cold and clinical. I find it catching for me often, because the words can only take us so far in this, but very interesting, and also a classic scenario. I mean, that we've seen over and over and over.
Yeah.
Very well documented. Here I am. How did I get here? What am I doing? And
Yeah.
We've joked on these other shows that with Michael Carter and stuff, that sometimes they don't drop you off where they're supposed to. Maybe it was supposed to be back in her bedroom. I don't know, but in this case, it was out the middle of the road. So
those things have happened, thankfully.
Yeah.
No, they're not perfect at all.
right. So
Yeah, I found it a little interesting that she did say, it was like relatives leaving. She was sad that they were leaving, but she didn't recognize the light, because when she said that, I thought this is obviously somebody who has experienced them over and over, at least a few times, enough to feel comfortable and connected. But it's possible, I'm sure, that, other times didn't involve the light.
Yeah. I bet we're going to find out.
Right.
you always do that.
But she did, it's always comforting when they have that familiarity, because, that helps with the fear too. I would assume that's not her first rodeo.
I was getting ready to say, I think this might be a repeater. If she can already, feel that.
I've been on this ride before, right?
But also, I've heard a lot of people who've said terrifying things and that they were terrified in the beginning, and then all of a sudden they're not. Just like when they came in my room that time and I was terrified and I thought, don't come any closer to me. Don't touch me, please. But then all of a sudden I'm good. What is that in your hand? Can I have it? And then I go right to sleep, which makes no sense. So wonder how
it's good drugs.
yeah. I wonder how much of that is familiarity and how much of that is something manipulating me from outer,
right,
from outside
technology,
doors,
Yeah.
But anyways.
Yeah, Peter kind of brought that up, that they do have the ability to make us feel calm or at
If I
least
have to say some kind of way.
What was that, Dana?
A telepathic tranquilizer dart.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it reminds me, I was reading the Emerald Tablets, and Thoth came down and everybody was charging with spears, and he said he took out this device and just subdued the crowd and made them calm with some kind of a frequency or something. So I'm sure they have the technology.
Yeah.
All right. So for this next clip, she can see the saucer, but the problem with it is she can only see a part of it and the rest of her vision is blurry. So I have her step back just a little bit and so that she'll be able to see all of it.
Very big. It's not very big.
It's a small saucer. Does it have any kind of windows or anything like that?
No, I'm having trouble seeing it. Like I see one part and the rest is blurry. And when I look over where it's blurry, then I can see that. But now the first part is blurry.
All right, well, let's have you take one step back. And when you do this, you're going to be able to see the whole thing without it being blurry. Your vision will be completely clear. So let's take that one step back. And now tell me what you see.
It's like that saucer I saw when I was a little kid.
Is it the same one or does it just look similar?
I think it looks the same. It doesn't. It's just smooth.
Just smooth and clear?
Just smooth and silver, I guess, or gray.
Do you notice anything else that's around you?
There's something on my left. There's a light. There's a light in my left eye.
Well, there we go. She had something happen when she was a kid, so that answered one question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The light in her left eye. Is that to be taken literally, or is that she can see it with her left eye?
You'll see that come out in the next clip. So a little hint is when Dana talked about like the telepathic freeze wand.
Oh,
She's onto something there.
okay.
Dana.
Imagine that.
Hmm.
I don't know about that.
It was pretty brilliant to have her step back and tell her, when you take a step back, you'll see everything clearly. I love that because obviously she was being kept from seeing and wasn't able to see the whole. But
Well, I think sometimes our minds do that to protect ourselves in a way. It just gives us little slivers of what we can tolerate at a time. So maybe that was all she could handle at that moment. But
I think it's a really important observation because so many people who are interested in the work defer to them, that they do this and they do that, and like the physiology of shock, the buffers that can come up to protect us. We administer on them on ourselves out of necessity, and the same way they do out of control.
people don't realize how powerful your brain is and how your mind and how it will work to protect you. And I learned that firsthand when my husband killed himself, because I was watching him when he shot himself.
Yep.
I was in the backyard with him, but I didn't remember hearing the gunshot for like 3 months. And I was running around telling the police and everybody that I didn't hear the gunshot. And they're looking at me like I was crazy because I was standing out there with him.
Right.
But that, and it eventually came back when I was relaxed and feeling better. And that's when I had the epiphany that your brain, under whatever circumstances, whether it's regular life or an experience like this, your brain will protect you as much as anything else.
Yeah.
And how powerful your mind can be. So, I'm thinking with her, it was probably her way of kind of buffering herself as she remembered.
Yeah, we also have to take consideration, though, that the fact that she said she had a light in her eye. So if she had a light in one eye, that could account for the fact that she could only see half the ship.
Well, yeah, that's true.
I mean, but I totally agree with you, Deb. I'm just saying that, we've got to just make sure those are both in there. But yeah, because your brain, and I think they know, when I say they know what you're able to handle. They probably can monitor that. If you're in total shock, I'm sure they have ways of monitoring that and knowing that what you can handle, what you can see, and what you can't. I mean, it's my guess.
Interesting.
Yeah. But she says she can see one side and not the other, right, Mary?
Correct.
Okay, so you're smiling over there. They got that grin. What's going on? Something coming up in the next clip?
Yep, you guys are going to like this one.
Okay.
So with this next clip, she's able to look to her left and she can see a gray being there and that he's connected to this light that's by her eye. Okay, so give me one moment.
To your left. Is it close to your left eye?
Yeah, it's close to me, but I can't see what it is.
Okay, so I want you to turn in that direction, and you're going to be able to see clearly what it is. What is it?
It's one of those little grays.
There's a little gray there?
Yeah. I thought it was something bigger, but it's not.
Ask him where the light's coming from.
It's on the end of a little stick.
So he has a stick and that's what the light's coming from?
Mm-hmm. It seemed like a great big light, but it's not. It's a little light.
It's just a little light? Ask him what he's doing with it.
Holding me still.
How's he holding you still?
I don't know. He's pointing it at the side of my head, and I can only look forward. And I can't move.
Okay. Well, ET beings, they tend to communicate telepathically with their minds. Ask him with your mind and he'll be able to answer you. What is he doing with that against your head?
He's fixing something. It's like I have a picture that he's sending me of a cut being zipped shut.
Is it a cut inside your body? What is he fixing?
Something in my head. Fixing something in my head.
So something that's with your brain?
Yeah, I don't know if he's fixing it or changing it, but I feel like it's a cut on my left temple.
That's wild.
Ooh, you're right. I like that one.
I just
It
can't
gets
help.
better.
Does she have any condition?
Not
You
that I'm
know?
aware of. No.
Any time frame with when this happened, Mary?
I would say this was probably in her early 20s, and you'll see that as we go through the other clips. But for my estimate from the whole regression, I would say this is an experience from her early 20s.
And how old is she now?
She's in her 60s.
Oh, wow.
She sounds very young.
I would have not thought that. She sounds very young to me. I'm surprised.
Another good sign of a
I don't know.
regression.
Yeah, a lot of times they take on the tone of voice of the time period they're going back to.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I found it interesting the way she almost dismissed, oh, it's a little gray. No big deal.
It's like one of those. It's another one of
Right.
those.
Right.
I call them the little guys.
I know.
So I think that's another good sign that, this isn't her first time at all, if she can dismiss them that way.
How are you taking this all in, Dana?
I don't know. They feel a little controlly to me, and I do this every time I'm on here. I think that's just me because I'm a control freak, maybe. Some of the stuff, I have a light in my eye and I can only see part of what's there. Is that really protecting me, or is that obscured because of another reason? Like I said, I'm afraid of you, and then all of a sudden, magically, I'm not.
Yeah, I get that.
I'm like this with it, so that's why I'm kind of like.
And I get that. And there's a part of me that's like, are they just telling her that? But really, is it something
Like
else that she can't
influencing
fathom,
somehow to cause, not like, I'm not saying they're bad, but like, as I don't know. It would
They have
be
their own
terrible
agenda.
Yeah, if they're going to calm you down, they want you for a reason. So if you're prone to hysteria in certain situations, you wake up and you're with amongst a bunch of grays, they're not going to want you going off the rails. So they're going to want to keep you calm, right?
Yeah, right.
Although
I'm just a little bit more suspicious.
Can you
That's
hear me?
okay. Yeah.
I don't know why my image is frozen there, but once again, all of this has a very classic kind of patterning to it. These events and descriptions fit so many of the individuals that I've met or read their accounts or met through Bud, or it just reinforces that the euphemism at first, when this started to be studied, was they're experimenting. Well, wrong word. I think it was really David Jacobs who said there's a program, in effect. We can make our guesses as to the nature of it. Obviously, Dave was not a fan, is not a fan, but it's natural to feel anxious around this stuff. Bud, who had a wonderful sense of humor, but when necessary, a very dark sense of humor. And one of his statements he said over the years was, why should we trust them any more than we trust the United States Air Force? Even if they're good, deception is woven into behavior, and especially if there's a higher or a more controlling intelligence, that this is all in your best interest. But so all of this sounds again, classic patterning for sure. Don't you think, Deb?
I mean, I think in each individual person, I think
Every
you have to
case
see
is
the big
different.
picture. Yeah. I mean, I can say my own experiences. Maybe I've had a bit of that too in mine, but overall, I've moved in a particular direction that's been good for me, and I think you can have you can have questionable, sketchy, scary, weird stuff happen to you and still come out of it with something good for yourself. You know what I mean? I don't
Yeah, I
know.
mean, we've
I'm not
done.
able to verbalize it very well.
Yeah, I mean, we've done what 50 shows, Mary, something like that, and for us, and that's not many, but what we've noticed right off the bat was, like you said, Peter, classic stuff. You call it classic, and I see it where you're coming from. That is classic. We just, there's a lot of familiarity in a lot of these different cases, and I guess classic is a good word for it. So.
Right. And I think that's important because, the more people that see this program also see the familiarity across the universe with different cases, as Peter would say. How can they all be so similar, different yet similar, and not have some fact to them? So I think it's a good proving ground as well that, this is going on because many of these people who are not connected are having very similar experiences.
And have been for quite a while.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, some of our people are, this woman, if she's in her 60s now, this was good 40 years ago that this happened. So it's been going on,
And people are reacting the same way people would. I mean, and some people react differently to things than other people. I mean, and I see that too, so it's normal to react the way some people react because they're human beings. You know what I mean?
Right.
No matter what the experience is. And then when you suddenly don't have the normal reaction, it makes me wonder, even for myself, if something else isn't going on.
But to your point, Dana, my personal research of the Greys, a lot of it tells me that they have their own agendas. And so do we really know what that is? No, we really don't. But I don't have a choice because they're
that's just it too. You can't.
They're very far advanced.
Not able to. We're not as advanced,
right?
As they are. So
we can only hope. I mean, from what I'm hearing, it depends on who it is, what group it is. That they have good intentions. So we can only hope that. But
we're still here.
There are some that don't.
We are the hamsters of the universe.
But we're still here.
Pets.
I think anybody who out there in any dimension or realm who wanted to do away with us probably could have done it by now if they truly wanted it. So,
especially the last few years.
Let's face it, humans are supposed to be very, very interesting creatures. So
yeah, but we're also
a lot of potential.
Well, I know a few. No,
dandies.
Yeah,
I can't say it here.
I can. No, I'm kidding.
Or was somebody's graduate experiment gone horribly wrong and they're
That's what I said.
Yeah,
a better grade.
Yeah,
I'm in somebody's pet or some high school kid's science project. That's what I am.
I'm a sea monkey.
Probably got a D.
Stanton Friedman, one of his standing jokes was, "The Earth is where aliens send bad aliens. So you go there for 10 years and then you come back here and you."
Right.
It's punishment,
We're
right?
the Australia of the planet.
Yeah.
I was
galaxy,
just gonna
guess,
say
right?
that. I was
Didn't they-
literally just we're Australia. Yep.
Didn't they used to send prisoners there? That's how
Shrimp on the Barbie. Yes.
Yep.
They did.
We're the
Sure,
Australia
Barbie.
of the galaxy. Oh,
All right.
Well, at least we got a sense of humor about it, right?
That's
yeah,
true.
we gotta laugh.
For this next clip, she asked the gray being more about why he's there and what he's doing with the light, and she really doesn't like his answer.
Oh, okay.
Ask him what he's doing. Ask him what he's doing that for. Tell him to be specific.
He's getting behind my eye. He's putting something behind my eye.
What's he putting behind your eye?
Oh, a little BB. A little BB. And he says I don't need to know why.
I'd ask him why anyway.
Said I asked too many questions. This sounds weird, but I feel like he can look out my eye with it.
So is it something that he's going to be leaving there?
Yep.
Why does he want to be able to look out your eye with it?
Because I'm going to get pregnant. I'm going to get pregnant soon. He wants to be able to see out my eye. I don't know why those go together.
Ask him why it's important that he watches while you're pregnant.
I think he just wants to keep track of what I'm eating and what I'm doing, and that's all I get.
Ask him for me. Why is it his business of what you're eating and doing?
Oh, I don't like that.
What did he say?
He said I'm your father.
So he's a part of you?
I don't like that.
I just want you to know that you're perfectly safe. And everything's okay.
Wow.
Yikes.
That was wild. And
Shocking.
And I'm still gonna be suspicious.
well, yeah, you know, I
can't
mean,
help
and you should be. I'm questioning everything, that kind of person, even my own stuff. You know what I mean? But I did have, I related to it when she talked about putting something in the eye, and my first question would be, has she been to the eye doctor? Have they seen anything in her eyes? Because I got some weird stuff in mine, and also the feeling or the thought. Now she said they told her. I didn't have anybody particularly tell me, but I always knew that I felt like somebody was watching the world through through my eyes. When I looked at things, I wasn't the only one seeing them. This was when I was in my 20s and 30s, Peter.
Right.
Younger. So that kind of triggered something in my thought processes. And then when she says, I'm going to get pregnant, we already all know about my whole missing pregnancy thing. It wasn't like one of those, world weekly news magazines where somebody on there is like, I got pregnant and I got 50 alien babies or whatever. I had a real pregnancy diagnosed by a doctor, and then it really just disappeared.
Yep.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then I had what I always called dreams, a couple of dreams afterwards about it. I always called them that because that's the only way that I could live with it, because it's too crazy. It was too crazy to me at the time. And I had to make it fit in my world, in my life. I had 2 kids to raise. I couldn't afford to go lose my mind or my kids, you know. But so I get all of that with her. That just hearing her say all that just resonated with me up until the point where she said that he was her father. That wasn't something I could relate to, but I did feel a couple of times when it seemed like I always made contact when something happened to me. It was always the same feeling. They all looked the same. I couldn't tell who was who by what they looked like, but one of them felt different always, and he felt familiar. What that means, I don't know. I mean, nobody ever told me they were my father or anything like that, but I definitely can feel her vibes and be compassionate with her, you know, on this particular clip here for sure. Definitely triggered me.
So, how do you feel about this? Are we, you know, I don't want to sound like I'm speculating too much here, but can we kind of agree that it sounds like there's a hybrid situation going on here, and that maybe
she is.
Maybe he was telling her that I'm going to be the father of the baby when you're pregnant, because my genes and your genes or whatever DNA is going to be in that. And of course, I want to see what you're eating. I want to see what you're doing, because it all, you know, it depends on what you do, the health of the baby, the hybrid baby.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, all of a sudden your pregnancy is gone early, and they take him and do what they got to do, you know. But so they're very interested in what you eat and what you do, because this is our kid too. This is our species too, you know.
I feel like this woman is exactly the person that, when Bud told me that my story would help other people in the future, if I would let him tell my story, you know, not just the mark in the yard, but the pregnancy part. Because even after we decided on the mark in the yard, I still was hesitant about the pregnancy part. I mean, for obvious reasons. But eventually, you know, I said, okay. And this woman here is just, to me, I feel like the reason why I told my story.
Yeah.
And hopefully, you know, her and being able to talk about it will be helpful for her.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I too wondered right away when she said he's saying he is my father, if what he truly said was he was
the father.
Not her father. You know, there's sometimes a little, when you're speaking telepathically, and they really don't, you know, probably use our language, we don't use theirs. Could there be some confusion? I would think possibly. But now I'm really curious. Was she pregnant soon after that? What happened with the baby? Was she able to have the baby, keep the baby? Did it disappear? And then, you know.
Does she have any memory at all of having a baby or being pregnant? You know, was it all on the DL?
Yeah, that's true.
Say.
Right. So, and of course, you know, the empathetic me, my heart's breaking for her, and you know, wondering how did she get through this? And I hope she had support of people who would at least listen to her. You know, if it happened like 40 years ago, that's a long time ago, and people didn't listen.
No.
And people were afraid to talk.
Is there any familiarity to how long usually a lady is, you know, holds the baby inside before it's taken? I know it's not a very long time, maybe 3-4 months, or, I mean, it seems
before it disappears.
Yeah, before it disappears.
Gosh, I think I remember Bud one time having a case where wasn't a lady like really pretty far along. Peter,
really?
Do you remember that? Can you hear me?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Say again.
Do you? It seemed to me like I recall Bud having a case of one lady who was fairly far along when her pregnancy disappeared, but I can't.
Yeah, there were several cases really far along, and in one only happened once, but the obstetrician was so distressed, traditional obstetrician, and with a patient that he certainly trusted, didn't think was crazy or anything, and he ended up calling Bud in great confusion, and I must say I don't think he was happier when he was off the phone at the end of the call than he was when he called.
Right.
But there were several times that I remember in one case meeting the woman, and as Tony Soprano would say, what are you going to do? I mean, it's there it is. It's this impossible thing that happens repeatedly in patterns with women who, a number of, a segment of women who go through abduction related experiences. This is part of it. And, in kind of a micro way of thinking, because that fetus disappears when they want it to,
Right.
not when the human carrier wants it to. The well-documented case of Linda Corteil and realizing that she wanted the implant in her nose removed. Once it was established that there really was something there after an x-ray, and the morning that she got up fully intending to do it, fully planned, appointment made, it was gone, and it hadn't been sneezed out overnight or anything like that.
Right.
I mean, off on a tangent here, but I know it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And let's not forget, there's a lot of cases, classic cases, where women are taken and shown the baby they carried.
Repeatedly.
Yeah.
I saw
You too.
a girl. I mean, I was only 3 months maybe pregnant when the baby disappeared, basically. And my doctor told me something that I'm sure millions of women have heard over the years. Because I was 18 at the time. He said, when he took me and my mom back in that little room after my physical exam, and mom's like, does she need a D&C? And he says, no, she's fine. And then he says, my suggestion to you is that you forget this ever happened. You're young and you'll have other children. I mean, and this was back in 1977.
Right.
And women were treated differently than they are now, if you can imagine. And am I like, in my mind thinking, I'll never forget this. And then, having the dream, quote unquote, where I'm with the gray guys again. And this time there's a little girl with them, a child.
Yeah.
And the one that feels, in other words, the only one I get vibes from of, sentient or feeling, he can't understand why I'm mad because this is a good thing.
Sure.
So I mean, a lot of women have, and I've like that. I've always called those dreams because that's the only way I could live with it. Because I got to live here.
Yeah. And we can understand, whatever appropriateness or inappropriateness it seems to represent, we can understand the impulse of a perfectly competent, well-certified, respected medical health professional who comes up against this in routine practice, and holy shit, I mean, where do you go with this? You can't go to the AMA. They don't, you could lose your license just by taking it seriously and bringing it to their attention. Because, of course, we all know this is impossible. Therefore, you're deluded or you're not a very good practitioner or what have you. Obviously, it's changing, but, well, these things are so deeply ingrained, and I'd like to think that part of the gradual organic process of disclosure, whatever official thing happens or doesn't happen aside, there is a process in place where more and more people take it seriously, and at some unestablished point in the future we'll hit a tipping point. I think that's some way off. But in the meantime, I can certainly understand. Just forget about it because I'm gonna try because it can't be, and it's not going to do either of us any good to explore this because it's insane, and I'm frankly unnerved. Finding myself taking it even slightly seriously, but I don't know what else to do. There is that, and again, as more and more credentialed people come forward, and I'll say that. As Deb knows, Bud carefully built up a referral network of, it was everybody from social workers to emergency room nurses to psychiatric social workers, psychologists, physicians, a small number of psychiatrists, therapists, and well over 100 at a certain point that were in his Rolodex. And each one who had essentially come to him in good faith, respectfully saying, I do take this seriously. I am available, reduced rates or gratis or sliding scale, but I do take this seriously. Once somebody had gone to see them, the referrals were usually based on how close physically you were to somebody we could have you see. And I know this is off on a tangent, but again, it's a mark of, in this crazy unregulated field, that Hopkins really was very protective of the people that work with him. That while there was some interest in what they had to say about the session that they had with the individual, we were much more interested in what the individual had to say about the session they had with the professional. And if there was anything there that made them feel even slightly uncomfortable, that would be the important note.
Okay.
All right. So for this last clip, she talks about what the gray wants and why often there's contact made that's generational.
What happens? And so what happens next?
I don't think he means father. I think he means like father. I think he means like somebody in control of you.
Does it mean like in terms of maybe he had help in creating you?
Yeah. So he thinks he has some kind of proprietary interest.
Why is it so important to watch you while you're pregnant? Why is it important to them?
That's the whole thing. That's the only reason they're interested is, I'm getting dizzy. The only reason he's interested is following from generation to generation. He's not interested in any of us as a person, or he's just interested in the genetics.
Why are the genetics so important to him?
Okay. This is weird. Some rule prevents them from coming in and just taking things, taking over. They're not prevented from colonizing by breeding in, changing us till we're more like them.
So this is what they've done with your family over generations?
Lots of people.
Not just your family?
Right.
How far does it go back with your family?
I see somebody in a cave. He didn't answer me, but immediately I saw somebody in a cave.
Why is it so important to manipulate the genes? Why is it so important to them?
They're they're making us a hybrid. They're making us more like it's like a way of getting around the rules.
Why?
If a certain amount of their DNA is on this planet, it gives them something they want. No, I think there are some of them that are interested in what happens, what the genetics do, and there's another group that only uses it as a way to insert a claim on the planet.
Now, I've never heard that angle before.
Hmm.
That doesn't, nothing surprises me, except for it surprises me that I haven't heard that before after 40 years of being around.
But if we think about it, so many claim to be star seeds, or not totally from this earth, and I completely believe that. It kind of makes sense to me that
I kind of think
this
we're
has
all
been going
aliens.
on. Right. I think so too. And there are rules, and what a better way to kind of stake claim. What was that, Dana?
Was somebody just tapping? I heard tapping.
Yeah, we had some SOS stuff going on earlier too.
Oh yeah, we get. Peter. Sometimes we get like
Morse code.
Morse
I
code.
didn't mean to interrupt, but I heard it as you were talking, and it sounded like somebody hitting a mic. Like tick, tick,
No.
tick, tick.
I wasn't.
No.
And,
Me either.
And sometimes it shows up when we replay the show. So sometimes it happens while we're doing the show.
Like that.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that she says that because I know a lot of people are on board with the generational thing. Me being one of them, because I'm living it. I mean, it's me, my sister, and then my mother. But the only thing is, we can't go back too far with my mom because she was adopted, so we don't know a lot of her history past that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there was that weird little thing that happened with my granddaughter when she was, 3 or 4 years old, somewhere around in there. But yeah, so generational, that's not a new idea, that's a lot. I hear that a lot. So, and that makes sense. I didn't go out looking for nothing. It came to me. How would it know to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Then she said she immediately went to someone in a cave. I don't know how far back arts go, but I don't know. Maybe,
Well, if you subscribe to the fact that we had a great flood here at one time, and a lot of civilizations, really advanced civilizations, were wiped out, the first place you're going to go to live is in a cave. Doesn't mean you're not smart.
I'm gonna go on a
It means
mountain.
that you've got to survive somehow. You got to get away from the weather. So,
Right. Well, obviously, cavemen were smart. We're here. They made it.
Well,
they made it.
but if that big flood that happened that they talk about, everybody was, a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people were wiped out. And there's proof of it on the Sphinx. There's proof of it in South America, where these big 80-ton blocks were just washed away and knocked down. So the thing is, you're gonna find shelter to live in, and your first kids are gonna tell them, we lived in this great civilization. They're gonna go, really? Where's it at? Well, it was wiped out. So that's just my opinion. But yeah, the person in the cave could have been a smart person.
Well, definitely was. I've got 278 variants of Neanderthal in my DNA.
Yeah,
So
you both
there's
are. Yeah.
Me too.
So,
Whoa.
did she get, so this was when she was in her 20s, right? Did she get pregnant later after that?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
did she have the baby, or did she
Yeah.
have?
She had a baby.
And we'll probably have to wait until next week to hear the rest of the story.
Yeah, that's right.